Hi, welcome to the Quipster Film Review Podcast. My name is Vince Leo. I'm the author of the film review website, quipster.net. I invite you to check out over 4,000 of my written reviews. I've been doing film reviews since 1996. I encourage you to check them all out at my website, quipster.net, quipster.net. While you're there, I do also encourage you to check out my other podcast called Around the World in 80s Movies, covering, of course, films of the 1980s, including movies that influenced the film I'm going to be reviewing today on this podcast. Today's film is called I Am Mother. It's a movie that played at Sundance earlier in the year 2019 and is now currently streaming on Netflix. It's a science fiction film that has elements of, I guess, many other genres, but primarily it's a science fiction film. It is not rated, but I would probably rate it PG-13. It does have violence and a brief instance of strong language. The runtime is an hour and 53 minutes. Clara Rugaard is the main star. Hilary Swank also appears in a supporting role. Rose Byrne provides her voice here. Luke Hawker provides his body. The director is Grant Sputore, and the screenplay credited to Michael Lloyd Green. I Am Mother is a pretty thoughtful, very taut science fiction thriller. It comes from director Grant Sputore, who, along with his screenwriter Michael Lloyd Green, concocted this very futuristic tale with a more modest budget in mind, given that this would be their first produced film. The setting is limited primarily to a single location with a tiny selection of actors, but the technical specs and the feel of the scope of I Am Mother still remains very large, given the commitment to excellent technical design, especially in the sleek and very fluid look of Mother and believable set work. Clara Rugaard plays a young teenager that we only hear referred to as daughter by Mother. Mother has this android body played in the reportedly very heavy, about 95 pounds, practical effects suit by Luke Hawker, who would also act. He recited the lines by Mother that would eventually be voiced over in post. Mother has a very soothing woman's voice. Mother's finished voice, as I mentioned, provided by Rose Byrne. We soon come to learn that Mother is an artificial intelligence robot that works within this facility that is raising children in order to learn how to properly nurture them to adulthood for the purpose of one day perhaps repopulating a contaminated Earth that lies outside of their safe enclosure in this post-apocalyptic tale. Daughter, though, for now, is the only living human within the facility, although Mother says that her family, which is this collection of thousands of human embryos that are currently being kept on tap, they can be born and raised using this quick-gestation technology that we see Daughter produced from when the time comes. So much more to the story than that, but this is a movie that is built on reveals that I will not give, and that's especially crucial if you want to enjoy the movie, primarily the first time that you see it. Now, as with many science fiction films, much of the story within I Am Mother rests upon this underlying social commentary that's meant as a mirror reflection on things going on within our own society. In this tale, the opposite of what's going on today in the world of artificial intelligence takes place in front of our eyes in this film. Just as we in real life are concerned about how to develop and train and use artificial intelligence to make for a benefit to society, trying to erase all flaws within that artificial intelligence, this story kind of flips that on its end. It makes the artificial intelligence the determinant of the kind of humans that need research and development before we are released into the world to populate it again. This also delves into what it takes to be a good parent. We try to train our children to be better selves while also trying to learn to be better parents, although unlike Mother, we don't get to perform any do-overs with our own children. We have to do our best to get things right the first time around, and with technology and artificial intelligence becoming more and more useful in helping us in our day-to-day tasks, I guess it's only a matter of time before that technology is used to provide much of the care and education that our children may need in order for them to become their best selves, or so we think. As I mentioned in my cast list, and if you take a look at least one of the posters, there's a point where we're going to meet someone else into this initial two-part story, this two-hander, and that someone is played by Hilary Swank. As this is a film that is decidedly resting on reveals to propel much of the suspense within its story, I will say no more about how and why her character gets involved other than to pay the director Sputore respect for the way that the film is able to break out in its tone to encompass a variety of different genres and also in the way that the perspectives are constantly shifting to the point where we wonder how the conflicts that emerge will ultimately resolve and whether we can feel any comfort in any of the directions things could potentially go from there. Now, aspects of I Am Mother will remind you of other films in the genre, most notably 2001: A Space Odyssey right off the bat in its questioning of whether leaving our lives in the hands of artificial intelligence is a scary thing. It's probably no coincidence that Mother's face contains an element that is very reminiscent of HAL. A more recent film to which I Am Mother is sometimes similar to, I feel, is 10 Cloverfield Lane, in which people are stuck in a bunker fearing that the world is contaminated outside, never quite knowing whether that threat is real or if they're in more imminent danger from what happens in the safe haven that they seem to be trapped within. There are shades of the films of Ridley Scott and James Cameron that touch upon artificial intelligence specifically, Blade Runner, The Terminator, Alien, and Aliens. Those end up making it into the mix, although not necessarily in the most obvious ways that you would expect. It takes this question on whether a sentient artificial intelligence power structure can be a protective or destructive force really into the grayest of areas. Finally, some players of the popular console and PC game Portal are going to notice several similarities between the characters and events that occur within I Am Mother and the components within the game itself. Now, taking Terminator and Alien into account, those two examples show how much can be done with a very modest budget, which I Am Mother most certainly uses judiciously in the best of ways as well. Strong effects work here from Weta Workshop, both in terms of the practical effects of Mother and the CG elements that come into play as well. They blend very seamlessly together, especially in the way that Mother's look and movement consider both its comforting qualities, the voice and the instructed demeanor, but also there's an intimidation there in terms of Mother's size and ability to be swift when need be. While I Am Mother never quite achieves the lasting heights of its revolutionary sources of inspiration within science fiction films, I do think that it remains a well-done evolution of these stories, competently told. It's very well acted and very nicely thought out in a suspenseful and provocative way. By the end of I Am Mother, I think we end up questioning how we can make the perfect AI if we, as humans, as the creators, are inherently flawed, just as we, the creators and teachers of our children, are also flawed. If a source of artificial intelligence were to ever exist on this notion of the betterment of humanity as a species, how would it proceed to make an imperfect world run by imperfect humans a perfect place where we need no longer fear our worst impulses and instincts? I Am Mother pushes this question to the limit within its story with this answer that is both thoughtfully philosophical and shockingly terrifying to consider. I really enjoyed I Am Mother enough to give it 3 stars out of 4. 3 stars on my scale means that I do think that this is worth recommending for people who like this kind of movie. If you're a big fan of science fiction films, certainly you're going to get a lot of mileage out of I Am Mother. And if you really enjoy those movies that I mentioned, to which it owes inspiration, Terminator, Blade Runner, Alien, Aliens, these are the movies that I grew up on, as well as the filmmakers here. There are a lot of things to like here as well. It's a very strong 3 stars. I think if I watch it again, perhaps I might even kick it up to 3.5 stars if it holds up. But for right now, this is one of those borderline calls, so I'm going to give it the lowest of the 2 grades that I wanted to give it, and give it a 3-star rating for now. It's on Netflix, so at the very least, you should give it a try. If you already subscribe to the service, I do think that for a lot of people, it's going to be worth the watch. Thanks everyone for listening. I hope that you enjoyed this review. If you have your own thoughts on Mother and you want to express them to me, you can find my contact information at my website. That's at quipster.net, QWIPSTER.net. Until next time, I hope you enjoy your time. Anytime you get to go to the movies or you're just catching a really intense and thought-provoking film that is streaming to your home on a streaming service like this one.